All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're taking a deep dive into some seriously wild stuff. We're talking New Testament, we're talking UFOs in the ocean, pyramids, Easter Island, the
Oh,
whole nine
that
yards.
sounds like we're in for quite a ride.
Oh, you better believe it. We've got two sources we're going to be looking at today. One is a YouTube interview with this guy who calls himself a, get this, Christian whistleblower.
Intriguing.
Right. And the other is a Coast to Coast AM interview with, well, let's just say he's a former police officer who's now all about cracking ancient codes. So, yeah, get ready for some serious mind-blowing possibilities.
I'm always fascinated by these intersections of like religion, history, and, the unexplained. It really makes you think about how much we don't know about, well, everything.
You got that right. So first up, this Christian whistleblower, his name is Jeffrey, and this dude, he knows his Bible. I mean, like, really knows his Bible. Bible college grad, 20 years in ministry, claims he spent over 100,000 hours studying the thing.
Wow, 100,000 hours. That's dedication.
No kidding. But here's where it gets interesting. He claims the New Testament is chock full of, you guessed it, UFO and alien imagery. And not just random stuff, but stuff connected to some of the biggest events in Jesus' life.
Now, that's a bold claim. I mean, it makes you wonder, right? What if the people writing the Bible were actually trying to describe things that they just didn't have the words for? Like, imagine trying to explain a smartphone to someone 1,000 years ago.
I know, right? It would sound like magic. And Jeffrey, he lays out some pretty specific examples, like take the birth of Christ.
Yeah.
The shepherds, they're described as being like frozen and encased in this blinding light. And Jeffrey points out that the original Greek, it actually describes these as solid columns of light, not just some like hazy glow.
Huh. That is interesting. It definitely paints a different picture in your mind.
Right. And then there's the crucifixion. Sun's blocked out for hours, right? Well, Jeffrey says, what if it wasn't an eclipse? What if it was like a massive UFO hovering overhead, blocking out the sun?
Okay, now that's a pretty dramatic interpretation. But I gotta admit, it's kind of cool to think about.
Right. And let's not forget one of the most famous lines from Jesus himself. I am not of this world. What if he meant that literally?
You mean like extraterrestrial origin, literally?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
adds a whole new layer to that saying, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, we usually interpret that in a more spiritual sense, but yeah, with the alien angle, it's,
Yeah.
wow.
And then Jeffrey gets into this whole thing about evil entities, but he has this like really different take on it. He says maybe they're not actually like evil, but just manifestations of like unbalanced energy that we humans have been putting out into the universe.
That's interesting. It kind of aligns with that idea that our thoughts and emotions, like, yeah, have a real impact on the world around us. Like we're putting out these vibes, good and bad, and maybe those vibes are attracting something back to us.
Exactly. But here's the catch. Jeffrey also says there's this theory that like truly malevolent ETs are basically stuck on their own planets. They can't like travel around the galaxy wreaking havoc. So then the question is, if those guys aren't the ones causing trouble, who is? Who's behind all the like negative alien encounters and abductions people keep reporting?
Ooh, good question. That's where things start to get really interesting. Enter the intraterrestrials.
Intro what now?
Intraterrestrials, beings from Earth,
Hmm.
but like not the surface. Think like deep ocean civilizations, underground cities, that kind of thing.
Okay, hold on. Are we talking like Aquaman stuff here?
Maybe. Think about it. We've only explored something like 5% of the oceans. That leaves a whole lot of room for, well, who knows what.
True, true. I mean, we're
Yeah.
still discovering new species all the time, right? So why not whole civilizations?
Right. And Jeffrey, he throws out some pretty compelling evidence. Like, remember those Navy pilots who were chasing those Tic-Tac UFOs a while back?
Oh, yeah, those were all over the news.
Well, apparently a submarine also spotted similar craft underwater, moving crazy fast, like over 500 miles per hour.
No way underwater. That's insane.
Right. And then there are all those stories about UFOs, like popping out of mountains and volcanoes.
Yeah, I've heard those too. And what about that whole Admiral Byrd thing? The one about a hidden land beyond Antarctica? That always creeped me out.
Right. I mean, who knows what could be down there or under there, for that matter. It's
Yeah.
like a whole other world hidden right beneath our feet.
Okay, so we've got possible aliens in the ocean depths. But then Jeffrey throws out this other wild idea. What if some of these aliens are actually like time travelers from our own future?
Whoa, hold on. Time travelers. Coming back to, like, what, steal our resources or something?
Maybe, or maybe they're after something even weirder, like genetic material. Who knows? Maybe we're just misinterpreting their, like, super advanced technology as something extraterrestrial.
Okay, now my brain is officially fried. Alien civilizations under the sea, time travels from the future. It's like something straight out of science fiction.
I know, right? But hey, that's what makes this stuff so fun to explore. It's like anything is possible.
All right, so we've got aliens in the ocean, time travelers. What else you got?
Oh, we're just getting started. Remember Michael, the former cop turned codebreaker?
Yeah, the guy who went from chasing criminals to chasing ancient mysteries. Pretty wild career change.
You said it, but his story gets even weirder. He claims he's seen a giant cigar-shaped UFO.
No way, like the classic flying saucer type.
Yep. And wait for it. He says he's also seen, like, dimensional gateways opening up.
Dimensional gateways. Okay, now we're talking Doctor Strange territory.
I know, right? But it gets even crazier. He claims he's actually experienced time travel himself.
Hold up. Time travel. Like he went back in time.
That's what he says. He claims he was transported back to Victorian England in 1850. And get this, he says he actually witnessed a murder happening.
Whoa! That's heavy stuff. You know, it's one thing to read about these kinds of experiences, but to hear someone claim they actually lived through them, it's pretty mind-blowing.
No kidding. And apparently, he even had a face-to-face encounter with an extraterrestrial being.
Face-to-face. Wow. What did he say it looked like?
He didn't go into too much detail, unfortunately, but those kinds of experiences, they definitely had a huge impact on him, you know? He basically went from being a cop to dedicating his life to uncovering hidden truths. He believes they're encoded in ancient monuments, religious texts, even pop culture.
Okay, now that's interesting. It's like he's using his investigative skills from his police days to decode some kind of secret message hidden in plain sight.
Exactly. And his big theory is that, like, all these ancient monuments, they're not just random structures, but part of some kind of global matrix, a communication system using symbols and codes.
I mean, it's not totally crazy to think that ancient civilizations might have had knowledge and technology that we don't even understand today.
Right. And he also thinks religious texts, they're like scripts filled with hidden metaphors. The names of the gods might change over time and across cultures, but the underlying message, the path to enlightenment, he calls it, remains the same.
That's a pretty deep interpretation. It's like he's saying there's this like universal truth hidden within all these different religious traditions.
And the craziest part, he believes these codes, they're intentionally designed to confuse the uninitiated, but reveal profound truths to those who, like, know how to read them.
Kind of like a cosmic secret society.
Exactly. And he's got some pretty wild examples to back up his claims. Like, you know those Easter Island heads, the giant stone statues?
Oh yeah, those things are amazing. Who built them and why?
Well, Michael thinks he knows. He says they're not just statues, but a message. A message to, like, focus on the divine mind.
Okay, what does that even mean?
He says the head, it represents consciousness, like pure consciousness, beyond our physical bodies.
I see. So he's saying those giant heads are pointing us towards some kind of higher level of awareness.
That's the idea. And get this, he also has a crazy theory about the Great Pyramid of Giza. He doesn't think it was a tomb, but a giant replica of the human endocrine system.
The endocrine system, like with the glands and hormones and all that?
Yep. He says the chambers inside, they align with the pineal and pituitary glands, and the shafts, they point to specific constellations.
Okay, now that's just wild. I mean, it makes you wonder, right? Could the ancient Egyptians really have had that level of anatomical knowledge?
And there's more. Have you ever noticed how the number 33 keeps popping up in history and religion?
33. Now that you mention it, yeah, I guess it does show up a lot.
Right. Christ's age at his crucifixion, the number of vertebrae in the human spine, the degrees in Freemasonry. Michael sees it as this, like, super important symbol representing transformation and wisdom. He thinks it connects everything from ancient monuments to modern organizations.
Okay, so we've got secret codes, a global communication system, religious texts that are actually secret maps to enlightenment.
Yeah.
My head's spinning.
I know, right? It's a lot to take in. But here's the million-dollar question. What does it all mean? Where do we go from here with all this crazy information?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's like we've stumbled onto this treasure trove of ancient wisdom, but we don't have the key to unlock its secrets.
Well, Michael thinks he has some ideas about that. And trust me, they're just as mind-blowing as everything else we've talked about so far.
All right, so where were we? Secret codes, pyramids, and the number 33. It's a lot to keep track of.
I know, right? My brain is still trying to process all this information. But I think that's what makes these deep dives so exciting, you know? We're constantly challenging our assumptions about the world and pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Exactly. It's like we're peeling back layers of reality, uncovering these hidden connections and secret meanings that have been there all along, just waiting to be discovered.
And speaking of hidden meanings, Michael, our code-breaking friend, he takes things to a whole other level. He starts talking about a higher intelligence, like some kind of cosmic consciousness that actually observed us into existence.
Observed us into existence. Wait, is he talking about that whole quantum physics thing, the collapse of the wave function?
That's exactly what he's talking about. You know, the idea that, like, particles exist in this state of potential until they're observed, and then they, like, snap into a specific reality.
Yeah, I've heard about that. It's one of those mind-bending concepts in quantum physics that suggests consciousness plays a role in shaping reality.
Right. And Michael, he's basically saying that this higher intelligence, this cosmic consciousness, it's the observer that collapsed the wave function and brought our universe into being. Like, we wouldn't even exist without this active observation.
Whoa, that's a pretty heavy concept. So we're not just talking about some distant creator deity, but like an intelligence that's intimately involved in the very fabric of reality.
That's how I'm understanding it. And it gets even weirder. He starts talking about human DNA being programmed outside of Earth. He's a big believer in panspermia.
Panspermia, that's the idea that life on Earth originated from, like, microorganisms that came from
Yeah.
space, right? Like on meteorites or comets.
Exactly. He's basically saying that life on Earth didn't actually start here, but was seeded from somewhere else in the universe.
So not just random chance, but some kind of deliberate act. Like someone or something intentionally planted the seeds of life on our planet.
That's what he's suggesting. And it makes you wonder, who were these cosmic gardeners? And what was their purpose in seeding life on Earth?
That's a question for the ages, right? And Michael, he throws out one final mind blower. He says our physical bodies might have originated in the Orion Nebula, but our DNA, that came from somewhere even further out in the cosmos.
So we're all just like walking, talking collections of stardust from different parts of the galaxy, talk about a cosmic family reunion. But seriously, where do we even begin to make sense of all this? It's like we've been on this whirlwind tour of the fringes of knowledge, from ancient codes to aliens, time travel to the origins of life itself.
It's definitely a lot to process, right? But I think the important thing is to keep an open mind. We may not have all the answers, and some of these ideas might seem pretty far out there, but that's okay. The journey of exploration is just as important as the destination.
Totally. It's about embracing the mystery, acknowledging that there's so much we don't know, and being open to the possibility that the truth might be even stranger and more wonderful than we could ever imagine.
And maybe, just maybe, as we continue to explore these mysteries, we'll start to see the connections, the underlying patterns that weave together all these seemingly disparate threads. It's like we're putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle, and each new piece of information brings us closer to understanding the bigger picture.
It's exciting, isn't it, to think that we're living in a time where we can have these conversations, where we can explore these ideas and challenge the boundaries of what we thought we knew. Who knows what incredible discoveries await us just around the corner?
Exactly. So, to everyone listening, keep those minds open, keep asking questions, and most importantly, never stop exploring the wonders of this incredible universe we call home.
Beautifully said. And on that note, folks, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep diving deep.